So this week I'm down in Florida, and one of the reasons for being down here is a little bit of a reset. One of the big things over the past 5 years of just being a founder and building is really coming from a space of, as things are moving fast and there's massive goals and things to work on and do, how can we do things sustainably? And there's aspects in terms of sustainably as it relates to the organization or the work. And so that's one side of it. And I'm coming from the lens of, as the individual, the human, how can I have sustainability in order to keep moving fast and to keep pushing forward and to keep leading with a lot of these big visions, these big goals, these big things that we want to be able to accomplish. And so sustainability for me over time has really become part of the equation of longevity, is pouring into myself. And so coming off the back end of just travel, but outside of that, a ton of work happening, so much of school going on, and having a natural break in that. Coming down here is really an opportunity to pour into myself. And so as a founder, maybe you can relate. As someone building, maybe you can relate. I live in this constant cycle of go, 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 go. It's like 100 miles an hour. The idea of balance doesn't necessarily exist, and that's maybe even a whole different conversation. But I also have been able to figure out what I need and what that has to look like. And so right now, this week, and maybe into next, not quite sure yet, it's about doing a little bit of that rest and reset. And so being down here with my parents and taking time to just relax, change my environment a little bit, is allowing me to just give myself exactly what I need in this moment. And so that's a big focus this week. There's a lot going on. I'll continue to fill you in. There's a lot of things as it relates to building out things for the Center for Human Skills. So I'll probably share more about that this week. But on the other side of it, it's about rest, and it's about pouring into myself and sustainability. And that really is across the board too. It's about it's showing up in my training as well, and time with people. And I'm just always coming from a lens of how can I do things sustainably. And I know pouring into myself, and just being able to take that rest and prioritize the things that I value, gets to play a role, and that gets to kind of get energy as well. And again, that idea of balance doesn't necessarily exist. Work for me is a lot of times, a lot of hours, a lot of time and energy, and that's probably not going to change. And I can find those pockets where all the other things get to exist for me. So time with family, time back to myself, time with friends, time to just rest gets to be part of that equation. So training is still locked in for this week though. Getting some of that done while I'm here, which will be cool from a training lens because the weather is different. It's hotter here, and so we'll see how the body holds up, especially on just the back end too of not as much sleep and routine being a little messed up, and still being here, routine a little messed up. So just kind of playing that long game and giving my body what it needs, but also pushing in some of the areas as well. So big focus this week is sustainability. And I think that's a big conversation for founders, and builders, doing so much, big visions, big goals, big things to execute on at such a high level, all the time. And so how can we as founders do that sustainably? What does that look like? And again, that's so layered. That's the piece that I'm talking about right now in terms of what I know I need to do for me as a founder and builder in order to show up and lead through that vision at a high level. And there's things as building out the organization we can put in systems and build around in order to sustain that growth and what we want to accomplish and goals that we set for ourselves. So I'll spend more time, I'm sure, talking about that, but right now for me it's pouring here and just resting, understanding that this piece is a part of the equation to continue performing at high levels and doing it sustainably. It's reflecting a bit on my experience from Yale, and I wanted to actually touch on something that I think we've moved past, but I want to give you all a practical tool that you can maybe use, especially if you're a founder, if you're a leader in any space. So, right, for the longest time, there was this conversation of, do emotions belong in organizations in the workplace? And for a long time there was that debate, and I think there's so much research that has come out that shows how interconnected emotions, humans, workplaces just are, and we've grown a long way in that space. I think now it's more understanding, now how do I actually do that? How do I blend the emotional state of individuals and what that looks like collectively as an organization, and then how can we use people's emotional experience in a way that is beneficial for the direction of the company, of our teams, and just effectiveness and efficiency and things like that. And so I wanted to share, because I think a lot of times when leaders are in spaces, they are trying to curate this exact environment that they think needs to exist to experience success. What I mean by that is creating the most positive work environment, creating the most uplifting and happy and empowering environment. And I understand what that's rooted in. And I think aspects of that are really important, especially as leaders, in terms of inspiration and motivation, and getting people just connected to the greater cause of the organization. One of the things that research has kind of started to indicate is actually when you tell people, like when you there's an expected emotion of how you should feel when you're at work, there's actually this misalignment, because what is missing is how people actually wish to feel. Because if someone tells you, I want you to feel empowered, I want you to feel positive, I want you to feel happy every day here, but that person isn't necessarily experiencing that, or that is not the emotion they want to experience at work, there's a gap, right? Because there's this expected emotion. So there's this actual emotion around how they genuinely feel, and then there's this expected emotion of how the leader or the environment is telling you you need to feel. But then there's this desired emotion, how they actually want to experience the workplace. And I think as leaders, it's less about the expected emotion and more about designing around the desired emotion. So here's an interesting little stat for you. They and this man specifically, and I'm blanking on his name, but I'll share a photo and I'll make sure he gets some credit to the research that he's done. He pulled over 18,000 people in 35 different countries and wanted to understand, how did you actually want to feel when you are in the workplace? And this is cross-cultural. So in the United States, people, the largest percentage wants to feel proud. In China, that's accomplished. In Japan, it's challenged. In Germany, it's content. And in India, it's confident. So just think about those emotions for a second. If you have environments where people's desired emotion, I wish I feel confident, you're going to design a lot differently around confident, or support a lot differently around confident, than maybe you would if it was someone who wanted to feel challenged. And so I think that's the entry point as leaders. It's not about this expected emotion. It's not about this is what our environment is. It's tapping into how people wish to experience their day-to-day work environment. And that can be anything. That can be respected, that can be accepted, that can be valued, that can be supported, that can be challenged. all these different things, but I think the role of a leader is to design around that. And so what I'm going to do is actually share you how you can design around that, because this is something that I've used as a builder, as a leader, with everything we're building for the Center for Human Skills right now. This is a tool I'm using with the leadership team, and it's all rooted in desired emotions, how people want to feel at work, and designing around that. This tool that I've used is built off of the work from Yale and their Center for Emotional Intelligence. So if you're familiar with that work, this is a great resource. If you want the resource or you need more information, just reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to share. But one of the things that we've done as a organization transitioning from Grassroots Alliance to nonprofit is grounding ourselves in these team commitments. Yale calls them charters. They're basically the same thing. There's just a little bit extra to some of the questions that we ask, but connected to desired emotions. We ask people, how does everyone want to feel this year? Like, how do you wish to feel when we're working together this year? And we're able to unpack and understand what that all is. Then the next question we ask people is, why is it actually important we feel this way? So for example, for us, we said empowered, impactful, and valued. So I know as a leader that we have 3 emotions collectively we want to experience. And so the next question is, well, why is it important we feel empowered, impactful, and valued? And then we get to list that out. The third question is, how are we actually going to make each other feel this way? Like, what environments, what systems, what protocols, what things are we going to put in place to allow experiences around empowerment, feeling impactful, and feeling valued? And then the last one is, if we need support / aren't feeling this way, we will blank. Like, what are we doing when we're not experiencing that? Because I'm going to tell you this as leaders and founders, you are going to not feel that way all the time. And that's exactly the purpose of the tool. It's not about creating these expected emotions. It's about tapping into how people genuinely feel, and connecting them to how they wish they feel. It's staying in that aligned area. It's saying, you're experiencing this right now. We know collectively we want to feel this. So what do we have to do differently? What do we have to tap into? Maybe you're feeling that. Why are we feeling this way? How is that working? That allows us, we don't stay there. We don't stay stuck in this emotion space. We use that as information to build, to design, to think about how we're supporting our people so that they're experiencing exactly what they want in the workplace. And when they don't, they have space to give feedback, and we get to adjust and pivot and go from there. So I want y'all to think about that and let that like marinate and resonate. But I found that as the best tool. The interesting thing is, in all the work that I've done, people want the biggest support in helping them design these team commitments. Like, I've gone in and have just done this with teams. Oh, amazing. Shout out to Cadence. Been following them for a little bit. Huge fan of the founder and how he operates and what he's building. So shout out to them. Amazing post-training drink. 50 milligrams sodium, 190 milligrams potassium, 30 milligrams magnesium. If you're someone who trains hard, get yourself one of these. One of the things I was thinking about as I'm in this space of resting, resetting, as part of this ability to just go, is actually resistance. And maybe this resonates with you, especially if you're a builder, if you're a founder. It might be the hardest thing in the world for you to resist, like to pull back. And that's the case for me, whether it's things work-wise, whether it's things training-wise. Like, I am just go. But there is so much discipline and and meaning and purpose in the resistance. And just a perfect example, training today. I was supposed to run 10 around, like a steady pace, and then push the last 6. And I felt myself drifting faster earlier, and I literally had to hold myself back. So held myself back, really made sure I stuck to the plan, and I resisted the go, and was able to really finish those last 6 actually faster than I projected, because I had held that energy. And I think that is such a parallel to building in business and life. Just being able to tap into resistance and know when to resist. I think that's the biggest thing too, especially in work. As we're building a nonprofit, you're just going. But you have to sprinkle in resistance, and you have to be disciplined, and you have to be aware of when to resist, and when to tap into your team to resist, and when to get them ready to execute. And as a leader, that's my job, is to play that fine line between when to push and when to resist. But I think just leaning into resistance for me personally and professionally has just really been a game changer. So maybe that resonates with you. Cheers.